Good evening and welcome to the Doylestown Bookshop's virtual event series. My name is Chrissy. We are thrilled. I'm so nervous because it's James Patterson. I'm thrilled to welcome best-selling authors James Patterson and Mike Lupica as they discuss their newest book, The Horsewoman, with author and columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer, Mike Sielski. Our guests will be in conversation for about 30 minutes. Following that, they will take questions from you, the viewers. If you would like to submit a question, click on Ask a Question on your screen and submit your questions there. If you're watching from a phone or tablet, click the icon with the question mark. If you would like to purchase The Horsewoman from the Doylestown Bookshop, click the button on your screen that says Buy the Book. Now, a little bit about our guests. James Patterson is the world's best-selling author. The creator of Alex Cross, he has produced more enduring fictional heroes than any other novelist alive. Mike Lupica is a veteran sports columnist, spending most of his career with the New York Daily News. For 3 decades, he was a panelist on ESPN's The Sports Reporters, and as a novelist, he has written 16 New York Times bestsellers. Mike Sielski is a columnist for the Philadelphia Inquirer and author. The Associated Press sports editors voted him the country's top sports columnist in 2015. His newest book, The Rise, Kobe Bryant and the Pursuit of Immortality, was just released this month. Good evening. We are honored to have you all tonight.
Chrissy, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I'll be coming back on for the Q&A.
All right, so I'm going to kind of get out of the way as much as possible because I know no one on this call really wants to hear from me.
No, I do. I want to hear it. Don't you, Mike? Yeah, we want to hear it. What's happened since 2015? You had the big honor, and then what? You just
it's been all downhill. It's been all downhill. So, all right, my first question for you two guys is this. Really a couple of heavyweights in the world of words. How did this partnership come together?
Well, we got together in a bar, which is what writers do.
Yeah.
And we started to talk about, I think it was Infinite Jest. And we were chatting, and all of a sudden this woman was coming across the bar, and she's like coming so fast I couldn't believe it. And she got up to the table and she said, "You are my favorite author. I read everything you've ever written." And she's talking to Mike, and she doesn't even know who I am. And then so Mike immediately, as soon as she leaves, he calls his agent, Esther Newberg, and tells her about this. And then he called his buddy, Larry David. Then he called Hyacinth, I think. Yeah. And then when he gets done, and then he turned to me and he said, "You need me." So that's kind of how it happened, like that. Yeah.
Mike, what's your take on this chance encounter?
Well, it was the first time we'd met. It was in a bar, and we were kicking around some ideas, and we were talking about the possibility of writing a children's book together. And then Jim knew that my daughter has been a competitive show jumper since she was 10 years old. And he said the thing that always fascinated me about that sport was that men can compete against women. Teenagers can compete against riders in their 50s and 60s. And out of that was the story of Becky and Maggie, which is the heart of our book, a mother and a daughter, both champion riders, 2 horses, 2 women, but one dream: to make it to the Paris Olympics. And there's a lot more going on in our book, but that is the beating heart of The Horsewoman.
Now, what Mike just said is all fiction. What I said was what really happened.
Mike, how much, if at all, did you base the characters of Maggie and Becky on Taylor and Hannah?
No, the funny thing is the one strong comment Jim made early in the collaboration is, Becky is not your daughter. Okay. And because that day, Bad Becky was born, really, for both of us.
We needed that.
No, my wife is an all-time horse mom for this business. She's the model for how you go about this, and it's only deepened her relationship with my daughter. But obviously, Jim knows we were lucky in this book. We had 5 sets of eyes on this book throughout the process. Jim, me, Sue Patterson, Taylor Lupica, and Hannah Lupica.
Now, this book winds up with the mother and daughter competing to see who's going to go to the Paris Olympics. And my wife, Sue, that's her specialty because she went to the Olympic trials twice as a swimmer. So she would keep us straight on all the Olympic stuff, even though she knows nothing about show jumping. So what?
And go ahead, Mike.
No, I was going to say, and Taylor and Hannah would, they went over this page by page, and again, what we wanted to do was not just tell a mother-daughter story, though we have been blown away by the reaction we've got from mothers and daughters, and as Jim knows, mothers and daughters are starting book clubs, mother-daughter book clubs, because of the Horsewoman. But what we wanted to do was put you in the ring. We wanted to put you on these horses. We wanted to put you in the ring. And Michael, this sport to me, and I've lived and died with it. I'm a complete weenie when it comes to watching my daughter. There are pictures of me hiding behind trees, peering over hedges. I'm horrible, okay, when she's in the ring. But what it is, one rail knocks you out. It's like
the suspense in this thing is one of the pieces is who's going to get to the Olympics, and people will root for either mom or the daughter Becky. And Mike and I were the same way because we weren't really sure who the hell we wanted to get to the Olympics either until the end. But the other thing is what Mike was just alluding to, which is you watch certain sports like gymnastics, and it's like one little bungle, and it's like all the training, all the years of prep, it's over with. And that's a big suspenseful thing about this book as well. What's going to happen in all these different events? Is Becky going to wipe out? And wiping out is also an issue. You can get hurt, as Mike knows. And that's another thing when when his daughter is riding, it's always that little thing of, be safe.
Yeah, it's interesting you're both talking about it this way. One of the most suspenseful sporting events I've ever covered was the 2005 Preakness, in which a Fleet Alex, the horse that went on to win, clipped heels with another horse, Scrappy T. And in that instant, you thought Jeremy Rose, the jockey, is going to fall and he's going to get trampled to death. And he goes on and wins the Preakness going away. And that sort of sense in the scenes that you guys write throughout this book, that anything might happen at any particular time in these races, is absolutely palpable. Mike or James, did you interview Taylor and Hannah? Did you have to do that? Was it simply a matter of, hey, I've lived this sport, so therefore I can do it?
I interviewed them because they don't really like talking to Mike that much. So, yeah. Is Taylor listening tonight?
Yes, she is. Yes,
okay.
She is.
Just kidding, Taylor. I love you. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
No, Mike, here's the thing. And again, once you start this book, you can't stop it. It begins with a serious injury. I won't even say to which one, mother or daughter, but so much
or a horse.
So much of what happens in this book starts with a serious injury. There's an injury to the horse, which is another piece of this sport. But as Jim knows, there was a point late in the writing of this book where Jim one day said, we got to start sort of deciding what's going to happen with the Olympics. And I said, what?
We do have that problem.
Ask me that.
And we're just finishing one now. And the big thing is we're like 10 pages from the end and we still don't know who done it. That's a problem.
Wow. Well, you're segueing nicely to what I wanted to ask you guys.
That's our job, to make your questions a little easier.
Thank you. I appreciate it. This is why we brought you on. It's not to talk about your book. It's to make my life easy. Sure. What was the collaborative process like? What was the writing process like between you two?
I'm glad you asked that. And we can demonstrate it. Mike can in a really the way it happens, because what we will do is we will alternate either words or phrases like, say can.
You see.
By the Dawn's
early light.
Exactly. So that we actually wrote that song
today. We just wrote that today.
And it's in the book. At the Olympics.
I must have missed that part.
It's at the Olympics. It's a given that when you get the medal that they're going to.
Right, Jim? The answer.
Sure.
No, but I am curious about that because you guys. I mean, you guys have.
Mike,
Go ahead, Mike.
He looks a little skeptical. We wrote that song for this book.
Sure.
How did you do the other 500 pages then?
We start with an outline, and we just went back and forth on that a lot.
Yeah,
the outline is so crucial. So I'd say we went back 4 or 5 times on the outline. But then we're not slaves to the outline. As I said, we didn't know what the hell happened, so how could we be slaves? Mm-hmm. But that's crucial for me. There was one year when I wrote 2 books by myself, and I wrote 2,500 words, 2,500 pages of outlines. And I had this reporter in the office one time, and I'm going through this thing, and I'm pulling out all these drawers of things that I was working on that year. And he's going, "This is crazy. This is crazy." And then he looked at me and said, "James, you are crazy." So, yeah, it's like that.
Mike, I will tell you this. We were both surprised because we didn't know each other before we started this book. We've now finished 2 other books together. How easy this process became. I mean, and we do finish each other's thoughts, and like we do it on the golf course, because most of the time I'm saying "you're away, Jim," or something, something along those lines.
Right.
But it was as if we had been working together for a long time. I've never had a better experience in my writing career than working with this guy. And Michael, I will tell you this, and I'm not going to blow too much smoke at him. It's like being part of a master class in storytelling and moving a story along and keeping a reader engaged. And Jim just touched on something.
Dialogue too. The dialogue. I taught you a lot about dialogue.
That we have found out as we do this. Our whole game, your whole game, everybody's whole game is to keep turning pages. We keep turning pages because we don't know what's going to happen next.
What I wanted to, it's interesting that you're talking about that storytelling aspect, because I felt like in reading the book that I got a little bit from both of you, right? I got the pace of Jim's book after, all his writing is that way. But Mike, I could really pick up on your style, right? From reading your columns and your books over the years, there was the Lupica thing in there too. How important was it for both of you to kind of keep that, if at all, or did it just sort of naturally happen?
No, my job was to keep the Lupica thing out of the book, basically. But well, yeah,
Fortunately,
it's not a newspaper. Newspapers cost like what, $1? The books cost more money. People don't want to pay. $1 for the book. That doesn't work.
But fortunately,
it is a fun book. At Little Brown, they do advanced reading stuff for all of my books. And there are like about 100 people who read, ahead of time. And this is the only time ever that they had like 100% of the people who gave it 5 or 4 stars, which is nice. So people like it. It is exciting. And that mother-daughter thing is, it really works very well. I mean, because, mothers and daughters who are listening, know that. We don't have to tell them that. I grew up in a house full of women, mother, grandmother, 3 sisters, a female cat, and the buzz and purr is still in my head. So,
Was it a challenge at all to write a mother-daughter story in that regard then, or did you guys feel like you had it?
No,
according to Louise Penny, who's a wonderful writer, she wrote that. What the hell did she write here? Yeah, Patterson Lupica, blah 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 blah. I can't believe that 2 men could write so well about women, which I find kind of sexist, personally. And I like Louise a lot; she's great. But I called Hillary Clinton. She's a good friend of Louise's, and I said, "You tell Louise that we're kind of insulted by that." But we were complimented. It was nice that she thought we were convincing about women.
Mike, we both overmarried. The first time Bill Parcells ever met Taylor. No, the first time Bill Parcells met Taylor Lupica, not long after we were married, he calls me. We had dinner. He calls me up the next morning, and I thought he was calling to say what a good time I had last night. And he just says, "This is Parcells. You overmarried," and hung up on me. And Jim has the same experience.
Well, we were out in Hollywood, and I don't know what the hell it was, But Morgan Freeman came up to me and Sue, and he looked at me and said, "Hey, Jim." He looked at Sue and he says, "Sue, how do you do?"
So if we don't write strong, very entertaining, and women characters, our lives at home become extremely difficult.
There's a male character in the book that's interesting to me, and that's Daniel.
Mhm.
How did you go about writing him, and how did you decide on the storyline that follows Daniel kind of throughout the book?
Jim said, we cannot write this kind of book set in this world, set in Florida, without, remember, that was one of the first things you said, there cannot be a story like this without an immigration angle. And that's, I mean, that was kind of where we started with Daniel.
Yeah, he kept getting more and more complex, which was good. Similar with Gus Bennett. He was another character that started out, he was a little bit of a cliche, and we just kept getting, and Mike, you can talk a little bit about Gus.
Oh, well, Jim read, you might have seen this piece a few years ago. Kevin Babington, a writer who had a catastrophic accident at the Hampton Classic. It ended up a quadriplegic. And there were, Jim, that piece in the Sunday Times ran for like 2 full pages. And Gus at that point is a trainer, and he's in the book, and he's not really doing it for us. And Jim called up and he said, what if we put Gus in a wheelchair? And the minute we did that it just liberated us with this. We both we just love this character. And Michael, we've got an owner in this book who's like every bad owner.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm reading the book and I'm reading about the owner, and I'm thinking, there's a guy.
I know this guy.
One of the authors covered Steinbrenner, and he covered the whoever you want to point to in New York sports.
We're not going to point at anybody, but it is based on somebody.
Yeah, it is. But we're not going to tell you who.
Okay. Did you guys hit any? You're making it seem like this. You mentioned how easy the process was. What were there speed bumps? Were there times where you thought, we don't know where this is going. We've got to, we've got to sit and figure this out.
We didn't know where it was going, but that's not a speed bump. I mean, we did. We kind of knew where it was going to go, but we didn't know for sure. No, we haven't. And I don't really have speed bumps. I mean, even with President Clinton, we never had a speed bump either. Dolly, I have a book coming out with Dolly, and nothing. Just it's pretty smooth stuff. I don't know. I think we're both pretty easy to work with.
Yeah, I mean, it's Mike. If I walked across the room, but I disconnect myself, and then you'd have to start all over again. I've got all these index cards for parts of the book that I'm writing with what I call my Patterson-isms. Okay, movie moments, stakes, stay in the scene, no weak transitions.
Well, fortunately, Taylor now knows all of these things too, so she tortures it before. It's great. I love Taylor. She's terrific.
Is it you've both done?
Stay in the scene is a big deal.
Yeah, that was my next question. Yeah, go ahead.
When I do books by myself, I will, when I go through chapter after chapter at the top on the rewrites, I'll just put "be there," and if I can't make the scene come alive, why do I think a reader will get moved by it? A lot of times it's like you have to figure out a way, and with other co-writers to get them. I got like, all right, imagine it's your son. I'm trying to figure out some way to get them to make it real, as opposed to that distance. That where the distance is for this kind of writing is not a good thing.
Michael, it's what I find is when Jim and I are in some point of the story. No one hates backstory more than anyone I've ever met than Jim Patterson. He don't wear me out. But if you think I'm making this up about my notes, just hold on one second.
Okay.
In terms of the backstory, if we can't get it in a paragraph, I don't want it.
Yeah, that's obvious. That's clear from the pace of the narrative and all of that.
It's true, but it's hard. It's hard.
Wait, can you see this? Stay in the scene.
Stay in the scene.
Be there. So I didn't make that up. I didn't go write these just now. And they are taped to my writing table. And I'm telling you, it's made me such a better writer working with this guy.
How much, Mike, do your repertorial skills and background help in that regard? Powers of observation and being able to write a scene.
Yeah. I mean, I told Jim, you know, in the writing parts, so I had a lot to do with the writing parts. I said, I'm going to put us in the ring. I've never ridden a horse. I had one horse on a dude ranch take off, and then I actually made a sound like Dolly Parton. Actually, it was actually compared to Dolly Parton. But no, my daughter, when I see my Jim and I went and had some pictures taken at the barn of Hannah's trainer the other day. And both of us got a little too close to horses, despite, Jim, that you once had a close relationship with Secretariat. Isn't that right?
Yes. Brief, very brief, but close.
But the horse
Emotional.
leans out of the stall, Michael, and there's a shot of me going, okay.
Well, we don't know this horse very well. We don't know if he's hungry, you know.
Right.
He just needed to warm up to you. That's all. That's all.
If they eat meat or what, you know.
Mm-hmm.
How about a nice nose, human nose?
Yeah.
The topic itself, you mentioned how you came to it, and I'm curious more as much for Jim, I guess. There's such a diversity of topics in what you write about. How important is that to you to keep the subject of what you're writing about fresh from book to book?
I think it helps a lot. I mean, with this, Mike and I originally in that bar, we were talking about maybe some baseball stuff or basketball, and then Mike started talking about the horses, and and in the beginning we actually were talking about maybe doing a kid's book, and I went, well, you know what, I like that a lot better as an area. And then the more we talked, the more I said, no, I think maybe it's an adult book, but I hadn't done horses, and I think people that like the Horse Whisperer movie or book, or even Seabiscuit to some extent. Horses are interesting, I mean, and the horses are interesting characters in this book too. Coronado and Sky.
Yeah.
They're a part. That's a part of and their relationships to their riders. That's a big deal. It's a very, and not that much is written about that either, but that's a big deal.
And you know what? I think you see this, Michael, when you read this book. This subject was something I hadn't done and Jim hadn't done. And I think like putting a fresh set of eyes, two sets of eyes on this particular sport, I think kind of kept propelling it forward, because the sport kept, I've been watching my daughter ride since she was 10, but we kept getting surprised by the way all these places that the story would go.
Yeah, there are some readers that love it and they really demand it in the books that they read, that they're going to learn something. You will read this book and you will never watch show jumping the same way again. You will understand it for the first time. You will understand the drama, and something that you might not have paid that much attention to, you might find yourself actually, looking it up and watching some show jumping.
Who created the character of grandmother, Caroline?
Well,
I never get into who did what he, we kind of don't do that.
How did she come to be?
We wanted to have a grand dame in the book. We wanted there to be tension between her and her daughter and granddaughter. That's a piece of it. I don't want to get into
had
the
skin in the game, and she's got skin in the game.
Yeah,
right.
She's facing the loss of their farm.
Right. Was it which character? Question to each of you: is there a particular character in the book that you really were drawn to? One that you particularly liked writing during the course
Mike,
of
that's like asking. I've got 4 kids. Okay, that's like asking me which one I love the most. Okay?
Yeah, but you can be honest. I mean, come on.
No, the bad guy, man.
Than the other.
Yeah.
Steve Gorton.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
Love him. Right?
We kept going back, and no, he's not nasty enough. No, his dialogue is not. I hate him, but I want to hate him more. Yeah, he's a bad, and that's important to a book too.
Bad guys they have to interest you, and there's a scene near the end, and I don't want to spoil the story, where Gorton shows up in an event, and this was all Patterson, and there was a lot of ways that he could have gotten badmouthed by the people, except nobody says anything. And this is Jim's line, and Gorton just says, "Okay, I get it," and he turns and walks out of the place.
The thing with the Gorton, it's a combination of one, he's got to be a worthy opponent. And he's not stupid. He's just really, really unpleasant and arrogant and whatever, but he's not dumb, and that's useful. And then the more you hate him, the more pressure there is that there's a real pratfall, et cetera, or something, because you want this guy to, you don't want him to get off easy.
Right. I mean, that clearly comes through. It's not like there's, he's not a one-dimensional character, but he's also not he's not a villain you're kind of going like, oh, well, I can see, how he's well-liked in this regard, or he's vulnerable in this regard. You don't like him, even though you see him as a three-dimensional character.
Mike, and it's so bizarre, but it speaks to his arrogance. There are times when he's rooting against his own horse so he can be right about something.
Right.
Again, makes him like a lot of owners that I've ever met in sports. And, Jim's got another line he uses all the time he said, you know how people say throw everything except the kitchen sink? He said, no, we throw the kitchen sink too.
Yeah, why not?
So we're about a half hour in. I think it's probably a good idea to get some questions, I don't
know, Mike. We're doing pretty well here. I think.
Yeah.
Well, look, this is not...
We're good. We're good.
Jim, I felt like it was an award show and somebody started playing the music there. Didn't you get that feeling?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm playing you off the stage, guys. I'm playing you off the stage.
Get those people on the side. They're talking too much about you, though. I don't like this. This is bad.
Here we
When's
go.
the next?
Yeah.
What did you drink at the bar? Oh, come on.
That's a great question.
All right.
Huh?
So I've got some questions for you here that's our viewers have submitted. The first one is actually from one of our booksellers, Hillary. Hello, Hillary. Can each of you talk about a time of joyful discovery when doing research for a story?
What? Should we go back and forth with lines here? Or?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
What is it? A joyful moment in research? I can't. I've never had a joyful moment in research. I don't like to do it. I do it. It's painful. It's not what I do. A joyful moment. I doubt it.
No,
I'll tell you what. The thing is, like, I'll have people research. So if it's, if it's some kind of a drug place or whatever, I'll have my researcher go do it. If it's a scene in Hawaii, I'll do the research. So that's kind of my joyful.
Funny how that works.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why this book ends up in Paris. I mean, we feel we don't even feel we've done enough.
Yeah.
Our wives don't feel as if we've done enough research. You know what? Here's one piece of research that we did in the book. I had to ask a friend of mine, a writer, what it was like to have a horse fall on you, and the experience of that in a moment. But here's the thing, it's a novel. We had a blast writing a novel. Jim kept saying, we're not writing a term paper here, okay? We're telling a story that propels you along like you're riding a horse.
All right, we have another question here from Rebecca, and she's wondering, how does it work when two people write a book together? How does that process work for you? How did that work for you two?
Well, I think we've just explained that. I mean,
yeah. They drink and talk, and then it just happens.
It's different. It's different, because obviously I have other co-writers, and it's different with every one of them. One of the strengths when I've done stuff with President Clinton is he has so much insider information, so you can really, especially with a thriller, that with him, either he knows it or he can get to the sources. If this happened, what would happen? What would the Secret Service really do, et cetera? Right? So that's very useful and wonderful. The Dolly Parton novel, she's a storyteller, and always every one of her songs is a story. But once again, she has all the insider information in terms of making that book, really hum and be accurate. And with Mike, I don't. There really wasn't any skill that he brought. But no, actually, I will throw out.
This is one of those where you don't notice that the knife is in your belly until you look at the floor and there's a pool of blood at your feet. My God.
You had to build it up with the other two, though. No, Mike. Honestly, Mike is the best writer I've ever worked with, by far. Mike is it's not an accident that the Hall of Fame thing doesn't even measure up to how good he is, in my opinion.
I hate it when he says nice things like this.
I'm sorry. Let me take it back.
No. Don't take it back.
All right. Okay. What's the next question?
All right. This one is from Karen. Mr. Patterson, how do you decide who you will collaborate with?
Is this a request, Karen?
Question, by the way.
Yeah.
You need a collaborator.
I'm pretty full up now. And Mike and we just got together. Well, because I have a kids imprint, and we started talking about kids books. And then the more we talked, it was like, well, let's try this. And then, a part of it is, like with Dolly, I went down there and we shot the breeze for a couple hours, down there being Nashville. And we just enjoyed talking to each other. I had a rough idea for a novel, and she liked pieces of it. And with her, we made the deal right there. No agents, no lawyers, no nothing. We just literally made the deal. And the agents and lawyers hated that, but I don't know. Did I avoid answering that pretty well? Yeah, I think so.
And talking about children's books, you've both written children's books together. Would you consider working together again and coming up with another series for kids?
Well, right now we kind of think we're going good, and the fun of what we've done so far is that none of these books are alike. One's set in the world of show jumping. The second one will be set in the world of
families, insane families. Yeah. Take Succession, double the whatever, the nastiness and the fun and whatever.
Wow.
And then the third one is just, I think, the best character, certainly best character I've ever been involved with. The third one. So so we're enjoying it. Could we ever do it? Yeah, maybe. Maybe kids.
Yeah.
Right. And from Ashley, how long did it take you to write The Horsewoman?
About 3 weeks, maybe. Yeah. No. What was it? About
6 months, right?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, 6, 7, whatever it was. Yeah. We don't really know. We just kind of go and it's done at a certain point. We rewrite a lot along the way, and at a certain point, it's biscuits.
Do you guys have a word? Do either of you have a word count you want to hit in a particular day? Is there a time of day that you write and work better, or anything like that?
Oh, I write early in the morning. I write 7 days a week. I write every morning, and I write till I start to think that I'm slowing down, and I do the classic thing. I sometimes will stop in the middle of a scene, knowing that when I pick it up the next morning, I'm not looking at a blank page, and I'm right back into it.
Yeah, I write 7 days a week too. But the thing is, I don't work for a living. I play for a living. It's not work for me. It's not, like you're in a newspaper and somebody says, go cover this. And you're like, oh shit, I don't want to do that. It's not that. We just, we don't do anything we don't want to do, which is really sweet.
Mike, the best conversations, one of us will call the other and just, there's no preamble. It'll be, okay, what about if we do this? I'll say, what? Wait, no, not. And then he'll say, no, not that. But how about after that, you do this, and then we're running off and doing one of the best.
Yeah. Or it'll be that, and then there'll be 3 or 4 other calls within the next 10 minutes, and then maybe she does this, and then click. Then what about this? It goes like that
all the time. It's a wavelength that only writers can appreciate, I think. You're there, and it's a kind of conversation that you can only have with so many people because you can only have it in a certain way.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things with us, is we're not competitive toward one another. I think that's really useful. We're not, and we don't have anybody where we're trying to please some editor in chief or whatever the hell. And that, I think that's how we just don't compete. We just, what about this? What about that? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
He does gang up on me a little bit with my wife. I have to say that, because here's what Mike, here's what I'll hear sometimes. As Jim will say, as Taylor says, let's not get lost in the sauce here. All of a sudden, that's it's 2 against 1 sometimes.
Yeah. I think you can stand up for yourself, though, Mike.
Yeah, again.
And I do want to take a moment to remind everyone, if they would like to buy their copy of Horsewoman, click the button on your screen that says "Buy the book."
Yeah, no, it's fun. You will like it. I think nobody will be disappointed, and it's not a good time right now for books. January, it's not when I don't care about the book clubs. This is better.
All right, our next question and this could be for all 3 of you. Are you plotters or pantsers?
What?
I'm sorry. What?
Oh, writing star. Are you plotters or pantsers?
Pantsers.
I've never heard the term pantsers.
So a pantser, you kind of fly by the seat of your pants, no outline, anything. A plotter has that outline.
We're both. We're kind of both, because the one thing Jim taught me, well, he's a bear for outlines, but again, we're not a slave to the outlines. We allow the story to take us where it takes us.
Well, look what happened to Finnegan's Wake. I mean, there's a reason for outlines. No, we think it's useful. I certainly do. I think outlines. I think anybody that writes without an outline is it could be painful.
Yeah, I would say that too. When I was doing the Kobe Bryant book, The Rise, that just came out, the outline was essential in terms of here's what each chapter is going to say, here's how I'm going to say it, and then you can, like Mike said, you live within that. You have freedom within that.
You don't have to be a slave to it. Right. Yeah, and we aren't. I mean, as I said, there was a lot of stuff we didn't know, but we did have an outline, and it does say it's really comforting when you sit down in the morning and you kind of know what that chapter is.
Yep.
Even if you decide, what would be better, whatever, but I do. But there are a few writers, I think, that write without. I remember there was, what the hell is this? The guy that wrote Fletch, Gregory McDonald.
Oh, Gregory McDonald.
Yeah.
And he never wrote the outlines, but he said he lived with them. And he said by the time he would, just for months, and he would sit there and just writing it in his head. But by the time he sat down, he actually knew kind of what the story was going to be, pretty much. But I think without the outline thing, it's hard. It's doable,
has a
but
book.
hard.
I'm not going to say the title of it, but Jim showed me an outline for a cop book that I think is done now. And the outline was like reading a novel. I mean, I felt like I had gone through the whole novel. It was so detailed, and it was, like 100 scenes, like literally 100 scenes. And at the end, I said, "Okay, I got it." Yeah. Oh, I have to read
I have like with my wife, and I said, "Did you?" And she said, "Oh no, I read the outline." She doesn't want to read the book because she feels she already read it.
That's the ultimate example of all writing is pre-writing and rewriting. I mean, that's the idea that you would just sit down and it would pour out of you is
my style.
A misnomer.
When I sat down to write Along Came a Spider, I wound up writing like this 300-page outline, and then I read it and I said, "That's the novel. That's where this outline came, or that's where my style came from. The very short chapters, very colloquial, the way we tell stories to one another." I mean, I built some more into it, but that was basically it. And my editor talked about Springsteen when he did Nebraska. He put down this little guitar thing, and he carried it around for a few months. And then he said, "Oh, no, that's the album. Just that very simple voice." And, anyway, yeah.
All right, our next question is from Arlene for Mike Lupica. When are the next Jesse Stone books coming out, and how many more will there be?
Oh, I was telling Jim today, I'm about 10 chapters into the new one, which will come out next September. And then also this year, just because I like to keep dancing as fast as I can, I am picking up the Spencer series from Ace Atkins, and we'll be writing my first Spencer. And Sonny Randall is being handed off into the capable hands of Allison Galen. She'll be writing a Sonny Randall, which will come out next May, I believe.
Right. And for Mr. Patterson, any chance of a women's murder club movie or series?
You never know in Hollywood. If I ever wrote a Hollywood novel, which I wouldn't, I have the first line, "Hello, I lied." So I don't know. The Dolly Parton thing, we're very close to announcing. Two wonderful filmmakers want to do that. The Clinton, they're going out to actors. They have a script, and there's a bunch of. I don't know what's going to happen out there, but yeah, Women's Murder Club. There is a really good actress who's interested. So we'll see where it goes.
And for all of our authors here, do you have any advice for a child who's interested in writing? And Mr. Patterson,
Yeah.
we could start with you.
Yeah, read. Don't just read one kind. Read, and you can't start keeping a journal early enough. Just write scenes, write pieces of dialogue that you have. When I was traveling around in a different world much more and talking at schools, I would tell kids, when you write, when you put your name on something, you're a writer that day. So make sure you write the best sentence you can, the best paragraph you can, the best paper you can, because you don't know who will see it. My career in journalism changed because there were times when my work ended up on the desk of somebody who made a difference in my life, and I didn't know which of my pieces these editors had read, but I knew that whatever it was, that was the best I had in me that day. And there were several places in my life where it changed my life.
And this may sound crazy, but outline. I know, they're only little kids. You know what? So what? When our son Jack was 7, he wrote and illustrated his first novel, Death of the Butterfly Catcher. Butterfly catcher gets on a plane, travels halfway around the world, doesn't catch a butterfly. Gets on a boat, travels, doesn't catch a butterfly. Gets on a train. Jack loved trains when he was a little kid. Catches the butterfly. Gets off the train, isn't looking. Train hits him going the other way. Butterfly flies away. Death of the Butterfly Catcher. Outline, man.
Okay.
The only thing is to buttress Mike's point, read diversely, right?
Yeah.
Like everything. Read poetry, read politics, read prose, read everything under this, because it'll expand your mind about what you can do in whatever kind of writing.
And also subjects that aren't necessarily like, just because you love sports and you're obsessed with sports, don't just read sports stuff.
Right. Yep.
Read other stuff. Read about spinach. Read about collard. Whatever. You never know. All of a sudden, our thing with Jack was always just trying to open doors.
Yeah.
Go. Yeah, try that door. I don't really like that. We'll try it anyway. Yeah.
Right. And at what age did all of you start to write? And who influenced you to love the process?
Write novels or just write? I started writing for my school paper in high school. I was covering games for my high school's teams at the Nashua Telegraph in Nashua, New Hampshire, getting paid $5 a story. The first one I handed in, I didn't even know I was supposed to double space. I mean, when I got to BC, I was working nights at the Boston Globe and writing for the Boston Phoenix. And well, as Jim knows, I have no other skills, so I'm trying to. I'm just always trying to maximize the one I think I have.
Yeah, primarily right after high school, I started writing like a crazy person. I worked at a mental hospital. I worked a lot of night shifts, and mostly nobody was up, so I would read and write a lot at night. John D. McDonald, my first book, the Thomas Behrman novel, I published when I was 26, and McDonald gave me this wonderful quote, and it was, "I'm quite sure that James Patterson wrote 1,000,000 words before he started the Thomas Behrman number," which is pretty cool. I hadn't, because I was 26, but it was cool.
By the way, shameless product placement.
Oh yeah,
There you go.
June.
that's
It's
an autobiography coming in June, and that's what I was doing the very painful audiobook for today. Oh.
You will love this book. It is so winning. It is not the normal autobiography. It is the master storyteller telling the stories, not story singular, the stories of his life. It is so much fun.
Thank you. Who has the cat, by the way? Who has the poor cat? Who's sitting on a cat? Don't sit on the poor cat.
I'm a dog guy.
We have a cat. I had a cat here somewhere.
I think my goldfish is shrieking. I think my 7-year-old's goldfish is screaming.
Yeah, right. The cat is scaring it.
It's getting to be dinner time, and he weighs 20 pounds, so he wants his food.
Okay. All right.
He'll be okay. Okay. All right. Again, from Hillary, our bookseller. What have you all read recently that you've really enjoyed?
Let's see.
That always stops me.
I'll jump in while they think. The last thing I read was Empire of Pain by Patrick Radden Keefe.
I love that. Yeah.
Not quite as good as Say Nothing, but only because Say Nothing was so incredible. Still great. So,
and my buddy,
he's a great writer. He's great.
My buddy Joe Ide, who writes the IQ books, Jim gave him a wonderful blurb. He has a new Philip Marlowe book coming out next month called The Goodbye Coast. He's so talented. And Jim sent me a book that I love, Andrew Burrell, who has been one of his co-writers. That's just a great, Jim, I guess the only way to describe a great ticking clock.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I never carry. I always should carry a card. What I'm reading, but I don't remember. I'm actually reading. David Ellis is another one of my co-writers. He has a book coming out. I think it's coming out later this year called Look Closer, and it's really, really freaking good. Which really irritates me because I write with him, and now the bar is set up so much higher for what I expect from him. He doesn't know that yet, though.
Go easy, Jim. Go easy.
He will.
Gosh.
Tomorrow he will know. The good news, David, I love this. The bad news, yeah, just kidding.
All right, and this is for all three of you. What do you do when you're really stuck in a scene when you're writing?
We don't do a lot of stuck.
No, we don't get stuck. I mean, what I'll do, and the nice thing about doing a billion books at the same time, I just go on to the next chapter, honestly. And I figure I'm a big rewriter, so the next time I'll get it, and I won't be blocked, and I won't be nervous, and I won't be panicked, and I won't, put weight on my shoulder. And usually when I come back the next time, it fixes it. And around the third time, if it doesn't, I just cut the goddamn thing out of the book.
Mike, you'll appreciate this as a columnist. People say, "What do you do? What do you do when you get writer's block?" And I'll say,
"No such thing."
I'm sorry. I never had that luxury.
Nope.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sports Editor. I'm just not feeling it today.
What's the old saying, Mike? It's better to be done than good, right? I mean, that's really it. And to answer and to answer the question, I've never written fiction, so when I'm stuck, for instance, if I got stuck in a scene with Kobe, let's say, I would do more reporting. I would pick the phone up and say, okay, who's involved in this scene who I can talk to, who can maybe give me some more detail. And even if I don't use it, it just gets my mind going, and then I'll flow again.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, stuck. We don't do, Chrissy, we don't do stuck. Stuck is not, stuck is kind of not our thing.
No. When the Eagles have just won the Super Bowl and deadline's 5 minutes away, there's no stuck.
The thing about that, though, is first novelists in particular, first and second, they do get stuck and they get nervous. And a piece of it is just having confidence. You just have the confidence that you've done it. You're going to end the book. It's going to be okay. You'll be okay. You'll write the scene. You'll do and it is that confidence. I went to with Morgan Freeman, because he just every scene he knocks dead, and he said, "I'm just confident. I know I'm going to go in there, and I know I'm going to kill the scene."
Mike, one time when I was writing the sports column for Esquire, I went down to Lakeland, Florida, and hung out with Sparky Anderson for a couple of days when he was managing the Tigers. And he stayed in this little Holiday Inn, behind, not far from Joker Marchant Stadium. And at the end of the day, he had this little shag bag of golf balls, and he'd go out and he'd chip golf balls. And he's chipping, and we're talking. And I finally said to him, "What's the best part of being a manager at this stage in your career?" And he just looked at me, he smiled, he goes, "I know how to do it now."
Yeah.
And it was just, right, Jim? I love that answer. He wasn't bragging. He just said, "I know how to do it."
Right.
Was there a final title on your autobiography, James?
Yeah, James Patterson by James Patterson.
Okay.
I had suggested Gone with the Wind, and just
Best of times, worst of times. No.
Yeah.
And we have a concerned citizen. Arlene is wondering, since Sue Patterson, Hannah, and Taylor Lupica were so involved, will they be getting royalties?
Yeah, they get royalties. We don't want to go too far with that, but yes.
No.
Actually, Sue has a novel coming out. It's coming out next year. It's really good too. It's about mothers and daughters, actually, which is interesting.
My first big hit in a children's book was a book called Travel Team, which came out of something that happened in my life with my middle son, Alex, who got cut from a travel team for being too small. And the book it did extremely well. And I started taking Alex with me to make appearances. And one night he's sitting in the back. It's time for questions like this. Nobody knows he's my kid. And he says, "Mr. Lupica, just listening to your talk tonight, it occurs to me that none of this would have happened if your son hadn't been cut from that team." And I said, "Well, yeah, it was a great story, but he got back up," and I give him the whole spiel again. He goes, "I was just wondering, is that son been able to share in any of the royalties?" And it was that night, Jim, that I had to explain to little Alex Lupica that college in the United States of America would not be free.
Free, right.
And food also not free.
Yeah.
Room and board. No, yeah.
For the record, Mike, I have a 10-year-old son. His favorite is 2-minute drill. So,
thank you.
For the record,
they were all a blast. It was great.
And we have a new author here who's writing a children's book, and she's wondering what's a good place to start if you're just starting out as a children's author, or really writing for any genre.
A good place to start your story, or a good place to start out as?
I'm sorry, to become published.
Oh no, you just write the best story you can, and I always believe that if it's a good story, somebody's going to see it and recognize that. That sounds Pollyannish, but I believe it.
I'll just go super practical. Your idea for the book, whatever the heck it is, in a couple of sentences, say it to a few people, and if they go, "Ooh, that sounds great," it's useful.
Yeah.
And if they just kind of look at you and go, "Oh, good luck with that," then it's useful to have some idea where people are going, "I'd love to hear. Tell me that story. I want to hear that story."
Yeah. The one line, being able to distill any book or any story idea into that one line or one graph is so vital. And being able to catch people with it. Jim is 100% right about that. If you can't explain what your book's about and entice somebody in a sentence or two, forget it.
Yeah, you can't, to the publishers in the letter, wait till you read this. It's hard because they're busy. They're busy, and it's a real investment to sit down and read, 2 or 3 or 4 or 500 pages. I mean, it's like, I don't think so.
Mother-daughter Olympics. And away we went.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up here. We have a comment from Terry asking if we can give a shout out to her children who are fans and are listening. Their names are Brooke and Landon. Hello, Brooke and Landon. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, Brooke, Landon.
Terry.
Cool. Keep reading, man and girl.
Keep reading. And
Man
I'd
and
like to
woman.
encourage you all again, if you have not picked up your copy of The Horsewoman, you can click the link on the screen that says buy the book. We have plenty of copies at the Doylestown and Lahaska bookshops. You can order with us online or purchase it in store. And I'm also dropping a link in the chat to Mike Sielski's book.
Yeah, Mike, where's your book?
Right here.
There you go.
All
That's a
right.
good cover.
Yeah.
That's a good,
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
good cover.
Yeah.
You want to talk about one-liners that summarize a book? Batman Begins for the Black Mamba. That was the elevator pitch, and that's what got me on the track.
My kids met him at 19 at Madison Square Garden at the All-Star game, and they never forgot it. He couldn't have been nicer. It's and then all of a sudden, it's one Sunday afternoon, and Zach Lupica calling me from California. He said, "Dad, there's a crazy story out that and it wasn't so crazy."
Yeah. So 2 years, a week from today.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I would like to thank you all for joining us, Mr.
Yeah, this is great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mike. This is really good.
Mike, thanks for doing
so
this.
much.
Chrissy, thanks for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
you.
You made it easy.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Have a great evening and read The Horsewoman.
Oh, say can you see? Okay. Oh, say can you see?
How does the rest of it go? Dawn's?
Early light.
Should it be Dawn's early light, or do you think maybe?
No, Jim.
You think Dawn's?
No, it was good the way we had it the first time. Let's Jim, let's not get lost.
Would
in
it
the
be
song.
more dramatic if it was like nighttime? All right. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
guys.
Have a great night.
Really
Bye-bye.
appreciate it.
Bye-bye.